Hi, this is Joe from Joe's Butcher Shop, and today we're going to talk about the difference between dry aging and wet aging. First thing we're going to talk about is the wet aging of beef. Now, when beef is processed, for us in Nebraska and Indiana, what happens is they take the steer and break them into different parts. This happens to be a New York strip loin that I have in front of me. And what's done at the packing plant is this is cryovac, as you see, in a bag. All the air is removed, and this is left to sit in its own juices. Now, at the grocery store, they will cut what is called green meat. They'll take this meat within 5 days of when it's processed, and they'll start breaking it apart and cutting it into steaks for you. At a good butcher shop, we'll go ahead and leave this in its cryovac package for up to 30 days, letting it set in its own juices, letting its natural enzymes break down the proteins in the meat and create a more tender steak for you. This process, again, is called wet aging, and a good butcher will do this for you. And it's the difference between a nice wet-aged piece of meat and steak versus what we call green meat, which is probably 5 days or less left in this cryovac bag after processing. We'll move on now to dry aging. Now, what happens with dry aging is the entire carcass is hung for anywhere from 15 to 30 days. Now, remember, that's kind of like Rocky in Swinging Beef. If you remember, Rocky was punching the old sides of beef. That's what we're talking about with dry aging. As this carcass sits on a hook for 15 to 30 days, it purges water and purges its lymph nodes and other items in the animal, and what it results in is a concentrated beef flavor. Now, what I have here in front of me is an example of a couple different steaks. This back one was cut from the wet age process. Then you'll notice that it's a little rounder, a little thicker in diameter, and that's because it's not really purged any of its water weight. When you come to our dry age steak here, you'll notice the fat is a little wider than the fat on a wet age steak. It means it's purged a lot of its water content. You'll notice too that its profile is a little thinner. Again, we're probably going to lose 20% of its water weight while dry aging. So what does dry aging do for beef? Well, what it does is it makes it like a reduction sauce. Think of when you're cooking something at home and you reduce the sauce for richness. That's the same thing that happens to beef as it dry ages. As it dry ages, the patina of the whole carcass starts to decay a bit. We have an expert that cuts and trims that off, and you get down to a core great meat that's had its water pulled out of it, and you get a great deep beef flavor. I will tell you that the flavor profile between these two, both are excellent. On a wet aged steak, it'll be a little sweeter meat. On a dry aged steak, it'll be a little bigger and beefier flavor. The preference is up to you. They're both fantastic steaks. Happy eating.